My first baby picture appeared on the front page of the Amarillo Globe-Times in September 28, 1977. The headline read, "Tiny Girl Abandoned at an Amarillo Airport." And the story that followed told of a pretty brown-eyed baby girl believed to be between 16 and 18 months old, found abandoned shortly before midnight between two sliding glass doors, in relatively good health, but a little beaten up. Police had no leads about my relatives, and the FBI involvement didn't help. Now, in October, a second article, this time on page 6, ran, again asked anyone with information to come forward, and calls flooded the local agencies from people claiming a relationship to me. None proved true, and the announcement that the adoption proceedings would begin in the new year accompanied my third oldest baby picture, this time on page 28. Now, the people I call my parents. They had already adopted a son when the social worker called to see if they wanted to apply for a second child. And my mom, she never knew she wanted a daughter. She originally envisioned her family with 2 boys who would play football and be handsome and popular. She applied anyway. Her theory was it usually takes years for adoption approval, and by then they'd be ready for another child. Imagine her surprise when only a few months later she learned that a daughter was joining their clan. Now, I'm often asked if I ever considered looking for my biologicals, and my response has been the same for as long as I can remember. If the FBI couldn't find them, not sure I'd have any better luck. I know DNA technology has come a long way since 1978, and I suppose I could search, but it's never mattered to me. I have my family, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. But then, when the first lines appeared on the test that would forever change my life, questions started to pop up. What if I was a carrier of some horrible hereditary trait that I could pass down to my kids? Would I ever find myself in that same despair as my biological mother? Could I love my children, or was there something in me that would cause me to leave them too? Now, the birth of my first son produced all new experiences for both my mom and me. Pregnancy and infancy were brand new territory for us both, and every moment we shared was precious. Even that time when Mom was watching the contraction monitor with great excitement and announced each coming contraction as though I was unaware of the pain I was about to endure. When my second son was born, my past emerged again. That didn't happen with my eldest, but now I found myself looking at my twin. It was as if I was looking at my own baby pictures that didn't exist. And every now and then, I would talk with my mom about those earliest days and ask, how could anyone just leave a child? Those conversations drifted off without answers because the whole scenario seemed so inconceivable. Sometimes I'd feel myself sink into a depression as I'd play with my Minnie or watch him sleep. I'd try to convince myself that I should be happy. I had a wonderful childhood. I have a remarkably close relationship with my parents, and my mom is truly my best friend. I have 2 amazing boys that fill my world with joy and light and love, and yet there was still a darkness that held me hostage. I'd sit there just staring at my Minnie, smart, happy, beautiful, perfect. I'd stare into the face that mimics my own, and I'd wonder, what had I done to make them leave? Not just my biologicals, but grandmothers, aunts, neighbors, friends. Did no one notice my disappearance? Around December of 2003, I realized my son was my age when I was left in the Amarillo airport with a spoiled bottle of juice and an oversized shirt, and fading but visible bruises as the only hints of my life that came before. Logic tells me I did nothing wrong. I know it wasn't my fault. They did what they felt they were compelled to do. Logic tells me how fortunate I am to have ended up with such a loving family when so many kids get lost in the system. Logic reminds me that she left me in a public place in the days when unwanted babies were left in dumpsters and alleys. And logic doesn't have any control over the roller coaster of emotions you feel when you look into a mirror. Now, as dark as those days were, they also helped me find a light I didn't even know was missing. As I sat staring at my beautiful child, the same one that made me question my own value and worth, something amazing happened. You see, when I saw my son in all of his perfection, I finally saw myself as perfect too. I finally understood that the circumstances that took me out of one family and brought me into another were not my fault, not something to be angry about. I finally saw my birth mother's motive as a loving act that gave her child a better life than any she could offer. A mother's love will make her protect her child and sacrifice for her child at any cost. I may never truly understand the circumstances that led my biological mother to make the choice she did. I can never fully appreciate how lost and alone she must have felt. I can never imagine being in her shoes, but as I gaze upon my son with all his perfect imperfections, I finally understand the love that led her to leave me behind, and I can be thankful that she made the hardest decision any mother would ever have to make.